Hi guys, I'm Manny and you're watching another roster review by Glasshammer Gaming. We stopped doing these videos for a short while, but you guys really like the roster reviews and had loads of requests to start the videos up again. So here we are. Here is another roster review. Now Stephen Box from Vanguard Tactics took Blood Angels to the Bournemouth Brawl and he did really well with them. I played against them as well and I found his army really cool and really good. So we're going to go over his Blood Angel army today. Right, so our videos are set up in the same way that they were set up before the roster reviews. So there are 4 sections. The list, how it works, modifications, and how to tackle it. The other way around, how to tackle it, then modifications. But there's these 4 sections, and of course we're going to start off with the army list. I just want to say before we start, if you guys haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, notifications bell in the corner over there, so you know each time I release one of these videos. Right then, let's get right into it. His army list first of all. So it all fit into 1 battalion. And I think that's really cool to start off with because of the new CP changes in Warzone Nephilim. They now mean that you start with 6 CP instead of 12 before you start building your army list. But there's been even further cuts, like even your standard first warlord trait that you want in your army and your first relic, they're no longer free. They both cost 1 command point each. So I think Boxy's list is really nice that he's put it in 1 battalion because Blood Angels do like their CP. There's some really cool stratagems in there. And even if you don't want to use the ones, you know, in your own book as you go through the game, Blood Angels are certainly going to want to interrupt combat. So the interrupt stratagem in combat, which is the generic one in the rule book, that costs 2 command points. So even to do that, it's nice to have CP in Blood Angels. And, you know, you'll notice even if you start with a battalion and then you buy 1 warlord trait, 1 relic, you're already down to 4 command points. Whereas before, you would have had 12 command points if you started with that. Now you got 4. So you've got to be a little bit different with it. So that's the first thing I like about Boxy's list. It is just 1 battalion. And he is pure Blood Angels. He's not successors, he's just pure Blood Angels. So he does get the +1 to advance and charge rolls, and the +1 to wound in combat, which I think is fantastic in the current meta, and you'll see it in his weapon options as well. So, first of all, we've got 3 HQs. Number 1 is Asterath, and he's got Mantra of Strength and the Canticle of Hate. We will cover what they do when we go through how the list works, but that's what he's got on him. No warlord traits, no relics. Then we've got Commander Dante. I really like that he took Commander Dante because Dante hasn't been seen on the board in such a long time in competitive play, and he's such a cool model. So, and obviously, some people have some really cool conversions for him. It looks really cool. And his rules are pretty decent now as well. The interesting thing is Commander Dante is his warlord, and the reason for that is if you take Dante and you make him your warlord, you gain a CP. You go up to 7 command points. So then, for him to have his warlord trait, puts you back down to 6. So essentially, he still gets his warlord trait for free, whereas nobody else really does. So I quite like that. And his warlord trait is Heroic Bearing. It is worth taking, and I see why Boxy's taken it. It increases his auras by 3 inches. So that's very nice. And then we've got a Sanguinary Priest. Sanguinary Priest is absolutely essential if you're going to play a Blood Angel army. I think you cannot leave home without him. And he's been given the Rights of War warlord trait with the Hero of the Chapter stratagem, I believe it's called, from the Space Marine book, where you can just choose a character that's not your warlord and give them a warlord trait. And he's gone for Rights of War, which is pretty cool, and we'll cover that a little bit later on. And then in his troop slots, he's got 2 units of 5 Incursors, which forward deploy. He's got 1 unit of 5 Assault Intercessors, which I think they're there to sit further at the back of the board, raise like a banner there, do your backfield objections. It's like the cheapest unit in his army pretty much. And also later on in the game, they can have a big impact because they're like -1 AP, 1 damage weapons. But then in turn 3, they become like -2 AP with +1 to wound with an additional attack. And when you start piling all these things on, you're like, whoa, they actually hit like a brick later on in the game. So that's what the Assault Intercessor are there for. And then in the elite slots. The elite slots is where it's all out with Blood Angels. You can definitely see that with Boxy's list. So he's got 1 Sanguinary Ancient with the Wrath of Baal relic. He's then got 5 Death Company Marines with jump packs, and 4 of them have got Thunder Hammers. And they're really nice, and you'll see why in a minute. Then we've got a unit of 5 Assault Centurions. Not seen very often. We've not seen Centurions on the board in a very long time. And Boxy's gone and smashed people with these 5 Assault Centurions. They've got 2 Flamers each. No hurricane bolters on them, interestingly. And we're going to cover that in a little bit as well, because I did play against Boxing. He told me a couple of the reasons why he didn't have some of the war gear and why he did have some of the war gear. So I think that was really nice of him to share that information with me so that I could share in the video. And then also, we've got 3 units of 7 Sanguinary Guard. These guys are tough, fast, been made even tougher with Armor of Contempt, and they hit like a brick. There's nothing to not like about Sanguinary Guard. Oh, and then they've got a point reduction in the latest points field manual. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think Sanguinary Guard are one of those units. We were seeing them, not so much, but we were seeing them, and now they've just gotten better, which I think is cool because it's given Blood Angels a bump in the meta now, whereas they weren't a top army before. I definitely think they're in the top 5 armies in the game right now. So those 3 units of 7 Sanguinary Guard have probably got a lot to do with Steven's game plan. And then also we've got 1 unit of 5 Assault Marines with a couple of little upgrades. The Sergeant's got like double lightning claws. And then we've got 2 plasma pistols in the squad as well. I believe Boxy said that's just because that's what they were armed with. I know they could take Inferno pistols now. And if he had the time to switch and change weapons, he probably would have put them on. So that's his army list. Now let's have a look at how it works. Right, how does it work then? So let's have a quick look at how it's working. First of all, we've got Commander Dante. I think it's worth talking about him. His heroic bearing warlord trait is very good because it adds 3 inches to his Rites of Battle ability, which is the one that gives him, you know, an aura of 6 inches of reroll 1s to hit for all core units. But now that's going to be a 9-inch aura of all core Blood Angel units can reroll 1s to hit in that range, which I think is very, very good. It lets your bubble be a little bit bigger because that's one thing I noticed when playing against Boxy, is that the army likes to play in a little bit of a bubble. Not as much as some armies, but it does like to play in a little bit of a bubble. Now, they don't stay in the bubble, which is one thing I really like about it. So it goes around kind of together-ish, but with these 9-inch aura from the character and stuff like that, they can be a little bit more spread out. So that means you can hold multiple objectives as you're kind of going up in a little bit of a ball, but they catapult off and go and do big damage, which I think is really cool. And one of the main reasons for that is Commander Dante, because, and also it's worth noting his warlord trait also gives him a 9-inch +1 leadership aura. Can come in handy sometimes. But it's worth noting that he has got the Chapter Master ability as well. So he can pick 1 unit in the command phase that's within 6 inches of him, and then they get full rerolls to hit. So then they can go off and do whatever they want. Then everybody else who's left in the bubble, kind of, they get reroll 1s to hit from him, but the 1 unit you're catapulting off gets full rerolls to hit. And having full rerolls to hit on a combat army when you're catapulting out is really, really good. And that's another reason why it likes to play in a bit of a clump, is because the secondaries are very easy to achieve when you play in this kind of ball formation. So we'll cover the secondaries in a moment when we come to the other units and why they're there and stuff. But this is just his abilities, why Commander Dante is there. Also, Commander Dante gives you +1 CP for being your warlord trait, and once per game, if he uses an epic deed stratagem, that one costs 0 CP. So not only does he give you a CP, he does save you 1 or 2 CP later on in the game, depending on which epic deed stratagem you decide to use. I believe Fighting in Death is an epic deed stratagem. I'm not sure, but I believe it is. And if that's true, that's 2 CP usually. And if he could use it for free, that's really big. So I quite like the fact that he can do that. And then he's no slouch in combat either. He's got 6 attacks base. Now, there aren't very many characters in the Space Marine book or any of the chapter books that get 6 attacks on their profile. And then you've got to, you know, factor into that the fact that he's got the Angel of Death rule. So when he charges, he's going to get a 7th attack. And then in turn 3 onwards in the Assault Doctrine, he's going to get an 8th attack. So he's got 8 attacks essentially at Strength 7 with +1 to wound. Strength 7 with +1 to wound is really mean because most vehicles in the game are toughness 7, so he wounds them on 3s. And he's -3 AP, so -4 in the Assault Doctrine, and flat 2 damage. So he's actually a beat stick in combat, as well as giving off all these buffs. And then all attacks that target him are -1 to hit, because he's quite durable as well. So, yep, Commander Dante, take him, man. He's worth his points now, definitely worth his points. So I really like the box he's put him in. Then we've got Astarath. Now, Astarath is like a chaplain. He's got 4 attacks, so he gets 5 on the charge and then 6 in turn 3, which is still pretty damn good. He's got 6 attacks. He's strength 6 with +1 to wound, so not as strong as Astarath on the wound rolls, but he is also -3, -4 in the Assault Doctrine, and then he's flat 3 damage. That's where the magic comes in. Astaroth is flat 3 damage, and that's just base. And then remember I said he's got the Mantra of Strength litany? Now that, if that's inspiring, he gets +1 strength, +1 attack, and +1 damage. So then he goes up to 7 attacks, which is 1 less than Commander Dante. He goes up to strength 7, which is the same as Dante, but then he goes up to flat 4 damage, which is double Dante. So he's going to go in there with 7 attacks in turn 3, 7 attacks, strength 7 with +1 to wound, AP -4, and flat 4 damage. Astaroth actually slaps. He's a very good beat stick character, but then also he's got the Canticle of Hate, so he's giving +2 charges to people, which is absolutely incredible. He can pop the Litany of Hate to give full rerolls to everybody in range of him. So he's a very, very versatile character in this army. I really like it. But also he can chant the Massive Doom Litany, which is his own one, and I think it's a really cool one. It's specific to him. You pick a core or character unit, if it's inspiring, of course. If it is inspiring, you roll a dice. They get +1 to hit on any roll of the d6, the unit gets +1 to hit. But on a 1, one model in the unit is destroyed. On a 2 to 5, they just get +1 to hit. On a 1 as well. So on a 1, one model is destroyed and the unit gets +1 to hit. 2 to 5, the unit just gets +1 to hit. And then on a 6, the unit gets a 4+ invulnerable save and +1 to hit. So that's absolutely amazing. If you roll that 6, but just on any roll, you're getting +1 to hit on the whole squad. So I think that's quite nice. Bit of a risk because of course if you roll a 1, you're going to lose like 5 attacks to give the other guys +1 to hit. Probably is still worth it, but not nice when you roll that 1. So Astaroth is great too. Then you've got that Sanguinary Priest. Remember I was saying it's absolutely essential to have a Sanguinary Priest if you're playing a Blood Angels army. I'm going to tell you why now. So he's got a 3-inch aura of a 6-up Feel No Pain, just like any other Apothecary. And of course he can bring models back if you spend the command points, just like any other Apothecary. But in the command phase, he's got a 6-inch aura where a core or character unit can go into the Assault Doctrine. It's called like the Blood Chalice or something. He's holding his Blood Chalice. And yeah, basically, he can pick a unit, core or character within 6 inches of himself, and they get put into the Assault Doctrine. That is a massive buff to just have on like your Apothecary dude. That's fantastic. And there is a stratagem for 1 CP. I believe it's called the Chalice Overflowing or something along those lines. And basically, that lets him use his Chalice ability twice in a turn. So if you've got that big key turn, your opponent doesn't have any CP left to interrupt or anything like that, and you want to send 2 big combat units, like 2 7-man Sanguinary Guard bricks in, you can go Assault Doctrine, go. So like in turn 2, for example, you can have 2 units in the Assault Doctrine, send them off, they both get +1 attack, they both get the extra AP, and they just absolutely slap in combat. So yeah, slap them down, man. Slap them down. That's what the Sanguinary Priest is there for. But also, Boxy's paid a CP to give him a Warlord trait, the Rights of War, that we were talking about earlier on. And what that does is it gives off a 6-inch aura of objective secured. So if you have any core units within 6 inches of him, they gain objective secured. So that's basically like every unit in Boxy's army gets obsec near them, except for Centurions, I think. I believe Centurions are not core. So they might be, but I believe they're not. So yeah, he can give this obsec aura to absolutely everybody else. Sanguinary Guard, Death Company, and then Incursors get like double obsec, I believe. I believe if it's an obsec unit that's being affected by it, they get like double obsec. I'm not sure, don't hold me to that, but it's really good for Sanguinary Guard. Considering his army's going to move around in this block of Sanguinary Guard with Death Company and the Assault Marines, it's really, really good Warlord trait to have for that. 1 CP for the whole game as well. Very, very good. Then we've got this Sanguinary Ancient. Now the Sanguinary Ancient is basically there because of his relic, the Wrath of Baal. What that does is it gives a 6-inch aura. When the move is made, if you're within 6 inches of him, if you go to make a normal move, an advance or a fallback, you get to add 2 inches to the move, which I think is fantastic. Having 14-inch moving jump packs, I think is absolutely incredible. I've been playing Creations of Bile with 13-inch moving Warp Talons, and that's been incredible. Moving an extra inch on top of them, oh man, the freedom must just be insane using this army and moving them so far and then charging. So I think he's really good addition as well, the Sanguinary Ancient. And then really after that, you just fill the list with combat. So of course the 2 Incursor units are there to deploy forward Maybe do some secondaries if they need to. But you know, they can get you good points, and they can deny primaries because their objective secured and things like that. They don't need to be at the back because you've got a couple of units that are fairly, like the Centurions. They can hold your backfield objective and chain into the middle as well. So that you've got that. Your Assault Marines can do the same thing. They can hold that backfield objective. Just leave that unit out the game. But because you might think, why would I leave a unit of Assault Marines out the game? Like, you know, it's a 5-man Assault Marine unit that's 95 points. Why am I leaving them out the game? But they're not out the game because sitting in your backfield holding that one objective is getting you 16 primary points. It's 4 points a turn for holding your own objective in most missions. That's 16 points. So I think it's well worth it for having a unit like that. Then, yeah, the Incursors can forward deploy. And a big reason for that is the secondary. So let's talk about the secondaries as we go through the squads now. So the first one is raise the banners high. I think this army plays 3 secondaries, and it plays those 3 secondaries very, very well. The first one is in the Shadow Operations category, and that is raise the banners high. This list is very good at raising 2 banners. Sometimes you can raise 3 turn 1. Sometimes you have to wait till turn 2 to raise like a third one. But this list is very good at raising 2 or 3 banners and then defending them. Because this list is aggro. It can move at you so quick. If you overextend a tiny bit, there's a squad that moves 14 and charges you and rips your throat out. So this list can punish people that come forward. It's a very, very hyper-aggressive list as well. It can be in people's faces turn 1 or turn 2 if it wants to. And then you've got to fight through all the layers of Blood Angels to go and take their banners down, which is a very, very tough task. So you put like 2 or 3 banners up and they're staying up for the majority of the game. So, you know, raise the banners high should get you 10 to 15 points for this army pretty much every game. So I really like the fact that you have that secondary. And then you've got Relentless Assault. Now, Relentless Assault is in the Battlefield Supremacy one, which I quite like. It means you don't have to go out and go and get engaged, and then your opponent knows where units are going to be and stuff like that. Because you've got to get like 3/4 and things. But this one, Relentless Assault, is very good. It's in that category, but you need to just have more Blood Angel units, more friendly Blood Angel units in the enemy's deployment zone than the enemy has units in your deployment zone. But it's got to be achieved at the end of your turn. So that's fantastic because you're a combat Blood Angel army. So if somebody puts a unit in your deployment zone, by the end of your turn, you're going to slap that unit and, you know, take them out. So that unit's going to be dead. But then you just need to put 1 unit in their deployment zone and you get 4 points. It's 4 points. So you don't even need to score it turn 1. Even turn 2, if you score this objective for 3 turns, just 3 turns, and that's have 1 unit in your opponent's deployment zone and none of theirs in your deployment zone, you get 4 points. So you do that for 3 turns, you got 12 points. Now, it's quite nice that you can do it for 4 turns and max it out of 15, but you've only got to do it for 3 turns to get a really high 12-point score from it. So I like the fact that you have that flexibility there. And also, that's another reason the Incursors come in. Because if you get to go first, you can deploy 1 unit, just have 1 unit that's 9 inches away from your opponent's deployment zone. And go, right, if I go first, they're going to just advance into your deployment zone and get me 4 points. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. They only need to roll like a 4 on their advance, or they can move 6 and charge something on the front line, something that they've used to screen you, and you can get in there. But that's where the Death Company come in as well, because the 5-man Death Company unit with the hammers, they can use Forlorn Fury and move before the game. So they could move 12 inches before the game. Then one of them strings so that it's within aura range of your Sanguinary Ancient. Then they move 14 in the movement phase. So they move 12, then move 14. By this point, they're 2 inches. Even in the long deployments, they're 2 inches inside your opponent's deployment zone and then declaring a charge. So it's absolutely insane. You can get Relentless Assault from turn 1 very easily. So that's looking like 10 to 15 points on Raise the Banners, like 12 to 15 points on Relentless Assault. And then the third one, I think this list can do Death from Above very, very well. Now, Death from Above is in the No Mercy, No Respite category, so it's in the same one as like Oaths of Moment. Oaths of Moment's cool, and you can still do it, but it's okay. I don't think it's one of the best ones now. Death from Above is absolutely fantastic. So the way that Death from Above works is if you kill an enemy unit with one of your units that came in from reserves, right? Like Death from Above. They came in with their regular deep strike, well, not strategic reserve, their regular deep striking abilities with their jump packs and stuff. If any unit comes in like that and kills an enemy unit, you get 3 points. I think that's fantastic. And that's in any previous turn. So what I can do, right, what Boxy could do, he's got a unit of 7 Sanguinary Guard, right? Say he puts them in deep strike. That unit of 7 Sanguinary Guard deep strikes in behind a ruin. They come down behind a ruin and they go, right, I'm not really at any threat from your army, so I'll come down behind this ruin. And then they go, and this is if you don't want to come down and make a risky 8-inch charge and try and kill. Of course, you can do that. But if you come down behind a wall and then you go, right, next turn, I'm going to move 14 inches out and charge you, you get 3 points because they came in from reserve in a previous turn, which I think is great. So you get 3 points just for killing one unit with a Sanguinary Guard unit or a Death Company unit or an Assault Marine unit that's coming from reserve. So that's fantastic. But if you kill a unit on the same turn you come down, you get 4 points. And if it's a character unit, you get another point. So I think it's absolutely great that you've got all these like aggressive style ones because it really suits the style of the Blood Angels. So that's what you want to do if you kind of want to play this army. And that's why all those units are there. The Death Company to have a turn 1 threat and they can go and get Relentless Assault. Incursors to forward deploy, deny primaries by catapulting out, standing on your opponent's primary or going into their deployment zone and getting your Relentless Assault. And then these 3 units of Sanguinary Guard to kind of go turns 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go bang, bang, bang and hit you with 3 units. You've got all these combat characters, Centurions and these Assault Marines defending your own objectives. It's actually a very, very well-rounded, thought-out list. So that's how it plays, guys. And if you want to give it a go, give it a go. Those are the secondaries, in my opinion, you should be taking with it because Raise the Banners is 10 to 15, Relentless Assault is 12 to 15, and Death Bomb Above can be 9+ very reliably. And I think that's also very cool, is that you're using 2 of the Codex specific secondaries there. So it really shows that GW are starting to get on board with making armies play the way that they should. And I think this is fantastic. And yeah, hats off to Boxy. He did absolutely amazing with this list. So let's have a look at how we could possibly tackle some elements of the army. Okay, so the tackling it section of this army is not going to be too long because there aren't like too many counters to Blood Angels. The first obvious one I can think of is Mortal Wounds. They don't really like Mortal Wounds because, of course, they are an elite army. And Sanguinary Guard, I found this out the other day when I played Boxy, and I thought it was a little bit weird. Sanguinary Guard are 30 points each, but they only have 2 wounds. I was expecting Sanguinary Guard to go to 3 wounds now. I mean, I know having a 2-up save, and then being able to jump on cover for a 1-up save, and having Armor of Contempt to ignore the first AP, that is really tough. I do get that. I just would have thought that they would have had 3 wounds. You know, the way that they look all angelic and stuff, and they look a bit bulkier than the others because the wings on their jump packs and stuff. So I thought they were going to be a little bit tougher, but they're not. They're only 2 wounds each. So I got a little bit surprised by that. But it means they do go down quite well to mortal wounds, unfortunately. Like, if you've got some Harpies and you bomb a 7-man Sanguinary Guard unit, you're going to do like 4 mortal wounds. That's going to kill 2 dudes. That's 60 points gone just to some bombs as they fly over. So that is something to watch out for, mortal wounds. That's where you're going to probably want to use your incursors in front of other units in your army to keep those protected. Centurions can come in very handy for that. Just advance your Centurions out in front of everybody and go, bang, there we are. There's 5 of us. We have 20 wounds you need to get through. And we've got this Apothecary stood behind us giving us 6-up, feel no pain. So it's essentially like 24 wounds you got to get through. And not very many armies can do that in Mortal Wounds. Most armies can do like 10 to 15 if they really try. If they try to lean heavily into them, they can do 10 to 15. Only like Thousand Suns and things like that can do a little bit more. But, you know, that's okay. Like, you can deal with it a little bit, but Mortal Wounds hurt. So Mortal Wounds is one good way of taking stuff like this out. Normally, I would say a fast-moving OBSEC unit could like really hurt them because you could go and steal their points off their primaries and things like that. But that's not completely true for this list because of that character in there with the Rites of War, the Sanguinary Priest. He can stand there with like 7 Sanguinary Guard and go, we're OBSEC as well. So that's a really cool thing. And then sometimes, you know, you can go, okay, right, I'm going to jump 10 Guardsmen on this objective. That's mine now. You lose 4 primaries, Blood Angels. But actually, no, because there is a stratagem called Unbridled Ardor with Unbridled Ardor or something like that with Sanguinary Guard, where they can heroically intervene 6 inches. So if you come and try and steal an objective that the Sanguinary Guard are just in range of on the other side, you stand on it, they'll heroically intervene, and they will slap you down, and they'll take out that little 10-man Guard unit or 5-man Ranger unit, and they'll go, right, our objective. So just watch out for things like that. Those things don't catch them out so easily. Now, one of the best things I can say for dealing with Blood Angels is cheap combat trading units. That's what I found. I was winning out on a couple of trades with Boxy because I had units like Repentia and Zephyrim. Now, Zephyrim, they don't have 2 wounds. They're not the ideal things to go after them, but they are -4 AP. I'm only strength 4, and I'm only 1 damage, so I'm winning him on 4s, and then it's 1 damage, so it's only half kills on every time that one goes through. But because the -4 AP, I was like, even against you, that's -3, put you on your 5-up save. So I'm like, here you are, take 12 saves, and then 8 fail, and I'm like, yes, I've killed half a Sanguinary Guard squad for a 100-point Zephyrim unit, which I think is very good. So like cheap units to trade with, and Repentia do it fantastically. Anything that is AP -3 or 4 and 2 damage in combat will do very well against them. Blade Guard will do very, very well against them because Blade Guard, wound them on 3s. If you're other Blood Angels, you put some Blade Guard in your army to deal with other Blood Angels because then they're, you can be transhuman, so their pluses to wound don't hurt you. And your 3 wounds, their 2 damage doesn't hurt you as much. And when you hit them back, you wound them on 2s because you yourself are strength 5 with +1 to wound. And then you'll be -4, putting them on their 5-up, and you'll be flat 2 damage, killing one every time you go. So that's a really cool thing. And that's one downside in Boxy's army, is that he's only got all the 2 wound Marines. I don't know if that's necessarily a downside. It means that you can have cheap combat trading units trade with him. So that's one thing that's letting us tackle the list. So those are just a couple of ways I think you could go about tackling the list. Mortal wounds, combat, don't get tricked by the heroic intervention and things like that. And of course, shooting. If you can have decent screens that the combat armies need to hit, and then you can shoot them back, that's of course one of the best ways to take a combat army out. So think about those things. And some fight last abilities could be very good, because if you're a shooting army and you only have 2 or 3 combat threats in your army as counter punches, you could go in with 2 at the same time. If you could put fight last on one of their units and go, bang, that's 2 Blood Angel threats out the way to my combat, and then I've got all my shooting. So those are a couple of ways that you can go about dealing with this list if you come across it on the tabletop. But of course, its secondaries are still going to score very, very high. It's just a high scoring army. So you also have to take things in your army that are going to score very, very high while you deal with the Blood Angels. I think that is the tricky part. And if you get that right, you can deal with Blood Angels. Right, so those are a couple of points on how we could tackle the army. Let's have a look at what modifications we could make if we wanted to play Blood Angels, but not the exact same list. Right guys, the final section, modifications. So the modification section is going to be very, very small because I love the list. I really, really like Boxy's list. I think he's come up with it. He's gone to an event. He's absolutely smashed it. And then he's taken them to multiple events, changing and tweaking the list as he goes. And he's found the build that works for him. Now, personally, I don't like the Centurions. I think they're very, very slow. In the game that we played, they killed like a unit of Zephyrim that came in his backfield and stayed there. So I was like, okay, because I could keep them at range. And quite a lot of armies out there can keep the Centurions at arm's length. So they don't really come in very handy in most games, in my opinion. So if it was me, I would lean more into those incredible secondaries we spoke about, like the Relentless Assault. I would put more units in my army with the speed to be able to get into my opponent's deployment zone. I'd put more units in my army that can come in from deep strike and help with death from above. So that's what I would do. I would lean heavily into the secondaries because the secondaries can be achieved with quite a lot of ease for a Blood Angels army. That's one thing I love about them. So personally, I would drop the Centurions. And I think that saves you like 360 odd points. And if that is the case, it's about 300 points, 360 points. If that is the case, I'd use that to put 2 more Assault Marine units in and 1 or 2 more Death Company units in. Death Company I would go with first. I would definitely go in and put another 2 Death Company units in. Probably not with hammers. We've got that one unit that's got 4 hammers in it. Fine, that's your turn 1 threat. I would probably go with Power Swords and the Melter Pistols, because you can kill units with shooting then. And there is another secondary that you can then take. I think it's called Fury of the Lost, where you get 3 points for every unit that's killed by a Death Company unit. And then you get a point for every Death Company unit that dies as well. So it can give you a different option from Death from Above. If you don't want to put too many of your units in reserve for one game, you can deploy them on the board and go Fury of the Lost and tech heavier into your Death Company units. So that's what I would do. Take 2 more Death Company units so that I could have more secondary choice and even more units, like we said, to go up there and get Relentless Assault, and then put a second or if possibly even a third Assault Marine unit in if we have the points to do so, because I just think fast-moving MSU, hard-hitting units in combat is the way to play Blood Angels for me. And then also, if I'm going to go down that route, I would probably drop Asterath as well to take a Lamartes, because Lamartes also has the Death Company keyword. So if he goes and kills a unit, it'll get you 3 points. And if he dies, it'll give you another point. So then, you know, you can really tech into a 4th secondary and go, right, I have 4 secondaries I'm really, really good at, and I've just got to pick 3 of them in every game. So personally for me, that's the way I would modify the Blood Angels. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, guys. And if you guys have any suggestions on how to, you know, modify the Blood Angels list and what you guys have been finding a lot of success with your Blood Angels, please leave them in the comments below so everybody can share and grow and become better Blood Angel players, or become more knowledgeable for when they play against Blood Angels. We're all here to learn, you know. And there you go, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed this Rosh review. I brought them back because there's been a lot of requests for them. And if you've watched this far and you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, notifications bell in the corner over there so you know each time I release one of these videos. And if you really, really like my content and you would like to support the channel, have amazing discounts on our web store, or if you... Amazing discounts on our web store. And of course, the additional content. If you'd like all the additional content, like 40k meta with Manny that we have every Thursday, or Let's Talk Tactics, which is a live meta analysis kind of chat on a Tuesday night, then please head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. And I'll be back next week with another Rosh review for you guys. Enjoy. Take care, guys. Live stream Warhammer 40k games, meta analysis, tournament reports. Hi guys, I'm Manny. I am one of the co-founders of Glasshammer Gaming. I'm one of the current top 5 ranked ITC players in the world, and I play for my international team, Team England, and we are the current reigning world champions. So we started Glasshammer Gaming at the start because we play a very high level, and we realized that a lot of content creators online were more narrative and not really focused on the competitive aspect of the game, and we thought it'd be really cool if we made battle reports, live streams and tactics videos to help players improve in their competitive game, and also for people who are looking to start getting into competitive play, help them along the way and give them some tips. We also have an elite service, and if you join up, you get more in-depth meta-analysis, competitive tournament reports, and even bigger discounts on our store, which are incredible in the first place, and you're basically getting some of the best discounts in the world. If you join up, you also get access to our Discord server, where there are lots of like-minded people who also want to be very competitive and play to the best of their ability, and you'll be added in there with all of them. There are different channels for every army, every faction, so you can talk to other players who play the same armies as you and improve together.